Can you tell me what a sanctuary city is and why it's important?
Well, I'm not really sure, because when the governor declared it an emergency item and he was asked at the press conference to define a sanctuary city, he was unable to. He said, I'm not going to define it now, we'll deal with it later in the bill. And then when he was asked by the media to name a sanctuary city in Texas, he couldn't. He's like, well, I'm not going to start pointing fingers or naming names. So I'm not sure what he means by sanctuary city. I suspect it means a city that that has its law, does not ask its law enforcement to check citizenship status for all of its residents, and I imagine that's what he means by it. Ironically, the Texas Department of Transportation has that same policy. So in the legislature, we're trying to figure out how the governor's priority is different from the same Department of Public Safety that he governs. So it's causing a lot of confusion. I will tell you, it's also causing a lot of fear in the community. The folks that I represent, many of whom are Hispanic, about 70% of the district I represent is Hispanic, and many of whom are non-citizens, are concerned that they're going to be asked for citizenship documents when stopped for a routine traffic stop. And it's causing a little bit of panic and confusion and fear in the community. I think sanctuary cities are certainly not an emergency item when you have a $27 billion budget, and I think it's really more playing politics with people's lives than a real emergency item. I'll tell you, when we start cutting education, healthcare in this state, and kicking seniors out of senior homes, that's the real emergency, and that's what we should be focused on.
Why do you think Governor Perry issued this as an emergency item? There's a lot of speculation.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to read the governor's mind and why he thinks this is an emergency, but everybody suspects he's running for something. Ready for something else, whether it's president or positioning himself for vice president or maybe even running for U.S. Senate. And that causes one not to want to govern, but rather deal with red meat Republican primary issues. So leading with sanctuary cities is something that would allow him to burnish his credentials, I think, as being tough on immigration. So that may be a motivation. I hope it's not. I will give the governor the benefit of the doubt that it is not a political motivation. He has, and there's some sincerity behind this effort, but he hasn't been able to define exactly what a sanctuary city is and what exactly he's concerned about.
All right. Okay, so what is a sanctuary city and why is it important?
Sanctuary cities, when you said sanctuary, why is it important, a sanctuary city, or why we do away with sanctuary cities?
Right, why is the issue important?
Okay. Sanctuary cities basically don't do as much as we feel to discourage illegal immigration. And so what we're trying to do to do away with sanctuary cities is just allow the police in those areas or other parts of the city government to cut down on the sanctuary cities as far as the ability to control illegal immigration in particular cities.
There's a lot of talk about sanctuary cities. We got the bill coming up, HB 12, it's I think scheduled, and our readers want to know, what is a sanctuary city, what defines a sanctuary city, and why is the issue important?
Well, the issue is very important because a sanctuary city is a city in which the elected officials fail to obey U.S. immigration law. They just disregard U.S. immigration law. And a sanctuary city bill would prohibit sanctuary cities in Texas and require all elected officials, when we take an oath of office, we take the same oath of office for all practical purposes, and we say we're going to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and the state of Texas. And people who declare a sanctuary city, or people who don't openly declare it but practice it, are in violation of their oath of office, and they shouldn't be in office. That's why a sanctuary city is so important.
And as I understand it, that this bill is not really about cities, but it's about the different agencies, law enforcement agencies, any state agency, right? Is that correct?
Well, it's not about the whole city.
Right.
For example, the city of Houston, I'm sure more than half the city doesn't want to have any illegal aliens in their city. in which they're giving them free health care and free education. They don't want that to happen. So what it's all about is it's about elected officials not observing their oath of office and allowing this to happen with impunity.
And would you consider, like, what cities would you consider, I guess, a sanctuary city in Texas? Or would
Well,
you
I think one of the biggest sanctuary cities was Houston, and Governor Perry was told that by the retired police officers in Houston during the campaign against candidate White, when Bill White was running against Governor Perry. Governor Perry told retired Houston police officers at that time that he would have a sanctuary city prohibition sponsored and that he would make it an emergency. And he did do exactly that.
Thank you very much.
That's it?
You helping us out? Yeah.
That was easy.
Yeah. The question is, what is a, okay, so there's a lot of talk about sanctuary cities, HB 12, and our readers want to know what a sanctuary city is and why the issue is important.
That's a very good question, and there's never been a clear definition as to what a sanctuary city actually is, and to me it's just, it's a catchphrase that's sort of popped up as rhetoric this session. I can only speculate that they're referring to cities that have large populations of maybe undocumented immigrants, but I don't know. That definition still remains to be defined. I think it's nebulous, but I guess we'll find out shortly what they mean by sanctuary cities.
And why is the issue such a big deal?
Well, you know, from my point of view, it's not. But I, again, can only guess that there's the rhetoric behind, you know, people are coming into our country, they're, you know, taking jobs, they're using services that they're not entitled to, it's a drain on the system. And, you know, frankly, I think that that's false. I think that the immigrant population that we have, whether they're documented or undocumented, by and large just want to have a better life for them and their families.
And so if this legislation like HB 12 does end up passing, what kind of, I mean, what are the effects going to be on our...
Well, clearly, one of the things I don't think is being accounted for at this point is that this is going to create massive litigation for the state. And that's going to cost the state money. And when we're $27 billion in the hole, that's money we can't afford to spend on litigation right now. But that's going to be an unintended consequence of these particular bills should they pass. The other thing is we're sending a message to our economy that produces, I think, the undocumented community produces something like, you know, $6 billion in economic productivity for the state, and don't hold me to those numbers, but it's around that figure, that we're, you know, basically saying we don't want you here. And again, in tough economic times, we need a population that is going to contribute to our economy.